Hello everyone, my name is Drew Gibson. I'm a part of the Social SAC team, and I'm here to do a bit of a demo of our web app. So Social SAC is basically a web app to aggregate data and tools for houseless people in the Sacramento and Davis regions. So our focus is on cold weather, COVID, and just pretty much the major sort of difficulties facing people who are houseless right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a demo of how our project works and how we run things. So far we don't have our stuff up in production yet, so this is just going to be the locally hosted version. So we use Poetry for dependency management. This is a Django web app project, so we will go ahead and make sure we are in the correct folder. Looks like we are, and we will run Poetry shell. This makes sure that all of our dependencies, basically libraries, Django, Python versions, are all up to date, and anybody who downloads our repository to work on themselves is going to be able to use those same versions. Now that we got that started, let's navigate into our project directory, and we will go ahead and run our locally hosted version. Oh, interesting. Looks like I can't run Django, so I must do a Poetry install first. Yep, that makes sense. So I recently cloned this on a new machine, so I'm going to have to basically use Poetry and install all of those dependencies first. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and run the server. And I have some unapplied migrations, so let's double check that too. Make migrations and migrate. Migrations are changes to the data models within the system, so this must have gotten worked on since we last ran it. Okay, we'll go ahead and run the server. Looks like we have it running over here, localhost port 8000. Cool, and we're seeing something nice here. Let's go ahead and get this working in a bit better of a browser. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is sort of the demo project right now. The plan is to add some records in here for warming shelters around Sacramento and Davis. We are currently working on that. And we have these sort of dashboard tickers that are updating from live information. So we have, basically the most recent weather alert was 45 degrees. For the number of open shelters we have in our records right now, 1 of 1 is open, so this is going to sort of show more useful information as we add more records into our system for shelters around the area. And then we plan to do the same thing with community refrigerators, so this will be a ticker sort of showing the same thing. If we look over here, we have some COVID information, which links to Project Baseline, where you can go ahead and find out if you are eligible to go ahead and get tested for coronavirus. And yeah, so we are kind of at a point where we have a lot of features that we would like to implement. They haven't all gotten put in yet, but they're in progress. So we're using the Open Weather API to grab our weather. You can see it over here too. Eventually this is going to be a sort of forecast for the next couple of days. And we are also using the Google Maps API to deal with the longitudinal and latitudinal data for the shelters. So our plan is to have a shelter page that will show a list of all of the different shelters. Okay, so let's take a bit of a look at the code itself and kind of just what the format of a Django web app project looks like. So our project here is a little bit different than a typical Django project because we have some extra stuff for our submission. So we have like a video in here, we have a presentation folder with our PowerPoint presentation, and we have some sort of helper scripts that we were working on that didn't end up making it into our final product. So if we drop into the actual dashboard directory here, this is the directory for the web app itself, we see a few different things. First and foremost, we have this manage.py. This is essentially the hammer that Django uses to sort of build the different functions of this web app. So you're often using the manage.py script to run administrative commands and run any custom commands that you've sort of designed for your code base. We have our license here, and we have our SQLite database. So this is going to sort of get converted to a Postgres database once we are up and running in Google Cloud. But for now it works for testing purposes. We also have this .env config file, which I'm not going to show. That's a secret file. So that's where we're keeping our API keys and keys used for session management in Django. Now if we kind of drop into these application folders, core is our main one. This is where we have definitions for the URLs on our page. Right now our page is only one sort of web page, as it's a dashboard, so that will sort of expand in the future. We have our secrets, or sorry, not our secrets, but our settings, which is calling secrets from that config file. So this is a nice way to be able to, manage those, the sensitive data that we will need to run different aspects of this web app. And then we have a lot of the meat of the website itself. So this is where we have templates that make up the web pages themselves. And this is really the cool thing about Django. You can create HTML templates that use this sort of templating engine, and you can create dynamic web pages basically without having to reuse or without having to rewrite a lot of the same content. So you can sort of define something like a layout, like a base layout here, and this comes from the Google Material AppSeed Django template. So we'll leave a link to that in our project page, but basically we sort of took some of the templates that they had and built off of those and made changes for what we needed for our website. And last but not least, we have the actual app application here. So this is going to contain the data models for sort of the different records we're storing in our database. We have shelter, Frege, which is a community refrigerator, and we have some models for future things that we would like to support. So COVID-19 test sites, COVID-19 vaccine sites, and we have more ideas for different models we can add in here. The rest of this stuff is pretty much just the basic Django views and kind of configuration, so I won't go into too much depth. We have some the views here that kind of create our HTML pages in the first place, and this is sort of where we're working with our Open Weather API to filter out what we're looking for, basically a forecast for the next couple of days or the weather at the moment. Great, and that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good one.